Okay. So this webinar tonight will be recorded. Like I said, it will be shared later this week or early next week to your email where you how you logged into the webinar today. We have Catherine here today. She's going to share our Strong Student campaign and some tips and tricks for your student on how to be a strong student, how to be successful here at Montclair, and how you as families can support these habits and support your student through their journey here. So, Catherine, welcome and thank
Oh,
you for being here.
thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you everybody for coming this tonight. So this Strong Student Campaign is going into its third year, and it's really in response to a nationwide problem where faculty, parents, students are all feeling like something is not quite right. Um, There's something about their studenting skills, or what we call their studenting skills, sort of those skills and habits that help support learning, that allow learning. And there is kind of an assumption, especially by college professors, that students are going to come into college and they will know how to do everything. They will know what to do about office hours, they will know how to plan their time. And this really isn't a great assumption to make. Students today have a lot of challenges out in the world. There is the poly crisis, as it is called. Many of them, most of them, had some kind of schooling during the pandemic, where they lost out on some opportunities to practice or develop skills. There's also screen culture, there's standardized testing. We could have a really long list of things that are all kind of in this big mix that are impacting our students. So we developed this campaign, and I should say that I work in our Office for Faculty Excellence, which is an office that supports faculty. I myself taught or have taught for over 20 years, so I can see both perspectives, the professor perspective and also the professors who are coming to talk to me about what they're seeing in their class. So this campaign um, is very much trying to help faculty support students in being strong students. So what we do is we have a slide deck that we share with our faculty, and I'm going to run through the slide deck with you so you can get a sense of what this campaign is. And I'll also give you some tips about how you can add that extra layer of support. We also have student communications sending a similar message to students. So they're getting this message from multiple faculty, ideally, and in multiple channels. Here's our main page. This is Rocky, our Red Hawk, dressed up in his strong arm pose. And come on, slides, go ahead. So this is just some information about how professors support the campaign so that you'll know what's happening in your in your students' classes. They can choose to project the slide in their class. They can use it in announcements. They can use some optional assignments that we've developed, and they can have a conversation with their class about how things might work well for within their field, within their particular class. So if we take a quick look at the themes, you'll see that there is some repetition, and many of these themes have great relevance for the world of work, not just academic success. So building these skills can really help students as they go forward in their life. And you may say, oh, my student already has some of these skills, or our family has already cultivated these skills in our students. So that's great. Helping them to be reflective about what works, what they might do better, what works in particular situations can really help. So we start out by thinking about attendance or engagement if it's an online class. So thinking about how do you not just attend class, but attend class like you mean it. So this means being present when you're present. So having students think about what does it mean for them to be fully present? So often that's habits, sitting where they can pay attention, taking off headsets or taking out earbuds, silencing devices. muting notifications. All of this is quite hard, right? It's hard to mute those notifications, but it really does help create an environment where they won't be distracted. So one thing that you could do is to talk with them about their strategies. So ask them what they're learning so that they have to kind of report back to you. Talk to them about good habits. Tell them they should set their alarm, or remind them to set their alarm so they can get to class on time. Help them to plan ahead and reflect on what helps them stay engaged. And also know their schedule so that you're not texting them while they're in class unless it's an absolute emergency. So thinking about ways in which they can really be present when they're present. After attendance, we then think about getting the work done. So the second week's theme is getting the work done on time. Uh, from a faculty perspective, I've seen those students who, maybe they miss the first 2 weeks of class and they're always behind. It does not tend to work out well, no matter how how many good intentions they have about catching up. So starting off strong, keeping on track of the work is really helpful. So you can help your student by asking them what kind of assignments do they have coming up, and helping them to figure out that when they're planning, they shouldn't just mark the deadline, but they should also block off time for the work that needs to be done in order to meet that deadline. And then, of course, if they're struggling, you should encourage them to take advantage of the help that's out there. So we have a lot of help on campus. We have a tutoring center, we have a writing center, and the professor also has officer student hours. And these are places where students can go and get some help one-on-one. And helping them to understand that that's a valuable resource is really a good thing. The third week is very similar in that this is time management. So they figured out how to attend class. They thought about getting the work done on time. Now let's make some plans to make sure that they can keep doing that work. So this is really being realistic when they're planning. And you could help them with this as well by reminding them that they're not just thinking about their schoolwork or when they go to class, but they're thinking about time to study. They're also thinking about outside things. So if they have a job, they should block off time for that. They should block off time to commute. If they are commuting, they should also block out time for some socialization, for self-care, for sleeping, right? And for meals. I had somebody talking to me, I had an alumni talking to me about the Strong Student Campaign, and she said, you should tell them that they should block off times to prepare meals or to find meals. And I was like, that's a great idea. So you'll see now it says meals on the slide. Um, and then just thinking about taking advantage of CAST, which is our tutoring center, which I mentioned before. And then also just checking in with your student and seeing if they're on track, offering suggestions or helping them brainstorm ways they could get on track. After this, we move on to thinking about seeking help. So this is a theme that we return to. So it's week 4 and week 11. I like to think about week 4 as really planting the seeds, helping people to understand that it's not a bad thing. It doesn't show that you're weak to seek out help, but actually it is what will help you grow. Um, and as someone who's taught a long time, I really appreciate those students who come ask me questions, ask for clarification, talk to me about their feedback to make sure, talk to me about the feedback that I gave to them so that they make sure they understand that. And then folks who go and take advantage of our various resources. So helping them to understand that help seeking is a positive behavior that will help them succeed. We then think about taking care of their health because this is important as well. This is a theme that we repeat towards the end of the semester. And these are all healthy behaviors that students may already know about. They're all very hard to practice. Prioritizing sleep is very hard for me to do, I will be honest. And it's always great to be able to go out and get a little fresh air, and then making sure that they are taking advantage of the various health and wellness services that we have on campus as well. So this is another place we're just asking a question, checking in about how they're doing. And if the answer is they're not doing so well, reminding them or helping them to figure out which resources they should reach out to. The next week is really thinking about making their own community or making their own connections. And this could be friends, this could be people that they meet in clubs or other kinds of events on campus. There are career events, career fairs, volunteer opportunities, performances. There's really something for everyone out there. And we have a system called Engage that you may have heard about or seen in some of the documentation that you've gotten from Montclair. And this lists all of the opportunities that are available for students to partake of. And so sort of just reminding them that, asking them if they've done anything fun or seen anything fun can be helpful. And we know we have a lot of commuters and sometimes it's hard to stay after or to come on another day. But maybe trying to encourage them to do something once or twice a semester would be really good, if not more. After that, we're heading toward the middle of the semester in week 7. And this is when they stop to think about their strengths and weaknesses. And some of this is really their strengths and weaknesses in terms of how they study, where they study, how they can set themselves up to, as best as possible, to match those strengths. So some people like to work in a cafe or a library or a somewhat noisy space. Some people like quiet. So figuring out what works best for them and then helping them to do their best to make sure they get in that kind of space. Um, People also work better and have more time at different times of the day. So my fellow night owls probably don't want to have to wake up in the morning and get the work done. We'd rather finish it in the evening. And then early birds don't want to be staying up late to finish their work. So understanding how that kind of personality type works with students studying can be really effective. And so yeah, just asking them is something you can do, like what works best for them. You may also know at this point, as a family member, you may know like, oh yeah, they really are this or they really do this, and sort of reminding them that they may work better if they're working in the morning, for example, if they're a morning bird. After this, we actually return. This is right after fall break or spring break, depending on the semester. They come back and we ask them to think about attending class like they mean it one more time, but this time to recommit to attending class like they mean it. So here's an opportunity for them to pause, think about the strategies that they've been using since week 1, thinking about which ones really work for them and which ones don't. Um, because we know people are individuals and different things will work better for different people. So you can also check in with them at this point and just ask them, kind of talk them through their self-reflection, and offer feedback where necessary or celebrate them for making great strides, in using one of these skills and getting stronger on this. After this, week 9, we're past the middle of the semester. So here we really need to think about dealing with absences effectively. This could also be read as dealing with late work effectively. And so we realize people are humans, things happen. Someone's going to be absent at some point, most likely. And making sure that your student understands that they should keep up with the work. They should reach out to the professor in advance if at all possible. Professors tend not to like that "did I miss anything" question, to be honest with you. I've heard that from a lot of folks. And they should have a peer in their class that they can kind of be in touch with as well, just to get some notes. And if it is an extended illness or other situation, after 2 weeks, they should go directly to the Dean of Students office to discuss that. So here you can talk with your student about their plan. So what are they going to do if they miss class? And just offer them some advice about not feeling bad to reach out to the professor. They can phrase that "did I miss anything" question in a very different way that will not bug folks. They can say, "I will be out. I will be sure to get the notes from so and so, and I will make sure to do the homework that's assigned, or whatever is relevant for that particular day." So just being mindful of their schedule as well when you're making family plans, if at all possible. Sometimes folks tell me they're going on vacation, sort of during finals week. I was like, oh, okay, that seems a little bit odd. So maybe being aware of their schedule, that family vacation might be able to be scheduled at a different time if it's not tied to any other kind of event. Um, we then revisit one more theme. We revisit the theme of planning their time better. They've gone through half the semester. Let's see what's working, what's not working. There's still time to make changes at this point. So if a particular strategy of time management is not working, they can fix it. They can change it. They can try something new. So reminding them about that as well. They're not stuck with their, what if they were using a paper calendar and they hate it, they're not stuck using that. They can try another method. And again, that's really important for the world of work as well, right? You need to be on time, you need to get your work done, you need to manage your time well. Um, week 13, we have a theme called Lock In and Finish Strong. This is the next to last week of the semester. And at this point, you really need to just bear down. So limiting things, recognizing that these are short-term changes you might need to make as a student, um, resisting the urge to skip class, but instead getting the work done, maybe skipping a social event this week so that you can get your work done. And this is also a place for you to remind your student that they are not necessarily having to skip meeting with our friends forever. It's just for this period of time when they're finishing their final projects and they're having their final exams and they're really just pushing through. And sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment there, you just think, I can't see my friends ever again. So reminding them that's not the case. This is a short-term sacrifice with a big payoff. And then our last theme is to celebrate their success, because now they've gotten through the semester, they've achieved something, asking them what they want to do to celebrate, asking them to talk with you about what they learned about themselves in terms of how they study, how they do well, how they succeed, what habits they might need to change going forward. So these messages are shared weekly by our faculty to students, as I mentioned before, and also by student communications directly to students themselves. So if you would help us by also communicating the message, that would be great. All right, Kelsey, I'm going to stop here.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine, and great presentation. Thank you for the insight into the campaign and some tips. Families, if you have any additional tips or questions related to the campaign, any tips or any questions that we can just answer for you right now, feel free to add them into the Q&A section and we'll take some time to answer whatever questions that you have. So I'll give you a moment. And again, this webinar is recorded. It will be sent later this week or early next week straight to your inbox. So you can share with your student or review at a later date. Is this presented to students or just some of the faculty? My office does not present to students, but as Catherine said, I think it's some professors share in their classes. These are emailed to students, shared on social media, so these tips are always being shared. Catherine, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, we're as many campus partners as we can get, giving these messages to students. That's our main goal. So my role is really communicating with faculty and asking them to communicate with students. And then I work with a number of offices on campus that have other channels to get the message to students. And one of the reasons why we do it this way is so that we could have a consistent message. And it's not just like one professor in one class saying you should take your earbuds out, right? It's really hearing that same message over and over and understanding that this really is a fairly simple behavior that actually can be very helpful in terms of creating the conditions for learning, which is really the goal of the campaign, right? Helping to set students up to be stronger in their learning and then going forward in their careers.
Great. Can students record their lecture or is it an accommodation that has to be formally granted by the DRC? I'm not totally sure on that answer. I do know of students who voice record their lectures. I'm not sure if you can video record just because there are other students in the class. I would have to check on this answer. Do you know anything about this, Catherine?
I do know that there are some folks who have an accommodation, an official accommodation through the Disability Resource Center to record audio only. Um, I would recommend if the situation warrants to go that route, but also, to disclose or ask the professor, if recording is possible.
They can ask the professor as well. Each professor might have a different
Yeah.
preference. And if they do have a problem, then they could go through the DRC. But I would encourage your student to maybe just discuss with their professor their classroom expectations. Are lectures recorded in the event of an absence? Generally, no. If your student is in asynchronous class, which is an online class, then the lectures are recorded and posted to Canvas. But that's the only time that lectures are typically recorded. Any recommendations for focused learning for online courses? I'm in a few online courses myself as a full-time staff member, so juggling a full-time job with some graduate level classes. And for myself, I have found that setting the same time to work on my classes each week has been very helpful. Setting up the schedule, doing the same thing. Typically, the online classes are the same across the board. So once you get into that schedule, you can get into a groove there. And Catherine, if you have anything to add, feel free.
I think that's a great idea. I think sometimes people go into an online class thinking that because it might be asynchronous and not have official meeting times, that there are no deadlines, and you can do it whenever you want. But that usually means if you don't block off time to do it, it's not getting done. So making your own schedule, having your student make their own schedule that they're going to really take the online class at a particular time each week or split over a couple of days, but treating it as a class that they need to go to. And also, engaging in some of those behaviors about attending class like they mean it. So sitting in a space where they can concentrate, closing the browser tab so that they're not being distracted, closing the notifications so they're not being interrupted or distracted while they're doing the work. So a lot of that in-person thing about like, oh yeah, it's really about just being in the physical classroom, but think about the space that's going to be their virtual classroom, or
Mhm.
the place that they do their virtual work. That can be really helpful too.
Yep. And most of the time, a lot of these online courses still have group projects. So they are connecting with other graduate students. So setting time in the beginning of the week to schedule out their week with the expectation that they might be dealing with someone else's schedule at that time too. Okay, idea. Maybe these could be posted weekly near elevators in dorms, community bathrooms, or other high traffic areas. Great list.
Yes, I
Great.
love that. I love that. We are on some of the screens on campus, but I love the bathrooms and the dorms. That's great. I'm going to investigate that. Thank you so much.
How late are the library and cafeteria open? What are some places where commuter students can find a quiet place to study, nap? Great question. So I'm going to share my screen just real quick. Let's see. Share. Okay. So Montclair inside Commuter Life. The Commuter Life office has a um, commuter pit stop map. And there are different areas where dedicated specifically for commuter students or anyone really. But there is a specific study lounge in the library, a specific study lounge in the student center, etc. And there's microwaves in those areas. There's dedicated quiet spaces through our library website. They can also book study rooms, so they have a nice private room to stay in for a couple hours as well if they need. So on this website, let's see. Our website is still new, so I'm still trying to find where everything is.
I know they have the
Library.
napping pod in the library as well that you cannot reserve, but it's there. And I think there's a couple other nap pods across
Mhm.
campus. I'm just not
In the
remembering where
library,
they
they
are.
have a Zen lounge. In the student
Yes.
center first floor, there's a massage chair, a nap pod. On the fourth floor, there's a nap pod. Um, and the library is open very late during the weekdays. I'm not so sure exactly off the top of my head, but this is something that I can include in the
And right now they have
view
their
all
summer
hours.
hours.
Okay, yep, yep.
Maybe
Right now
view
they
all
have summer
hours.
hours of view all
It might
hours.
have it there. Um, Maybe monthly hours
Yeah,
at
so
the top.
aha.
Can we go to September? No. Oh,
Okay,
there we go.
so generally I guess 9:30 p.m. Oh, 8 to 10 most days. 8 to 8 on weekends. So generally 10 p.m. the library is open. During the week, most buildings are open anyways. They can walk into any building they choose. So yes, your student will find their place. Encourage them to just walk around, walk into random spaces. They'll find places. Um, are the syllabi and course schedules available in Canvas, or do only some classes use this tool? To my knowledge, all classes use Canvas and put the syllabus in Canvas. They should be uploaded by tomorrow, but if not by tomorrow, definitely Friday. That's right, Catherine. Anything else?
Yes, it's a requirement for people to use the built-in syllabus tool. Our provost just announced that requirement last week. Um, it had been expected. It was an assumption, one of those assumptions, right? This time about faculty. But yes, students should be able to find the syllabi once they can get into Canvas. And Canvas courses were published today. So students should be able to get into them. There may be some professors who haven't quite finished and have temporarily taken access away, but definitely by Friday, the first day of classes, everything should be up.
How many online classes do you feel comfortable taking while working full time? I guess this one's for me. So, my graduate program is an accelerated one. So, I take 4 classes a semester, but they are two at once. So, it's 2 classes for the first half of the semester and then 2 classes for the later half of the semester. Most students take anywhere between at a graduate level, like 6 credits. Oh, wait, they might be different depending on your program. Um, so I don't want to speak for every program actually. So I might hold off on that. But I say like 2 to 3 classes at once. Most students in particular programs will take up to 4, I think, in a graduate level. For undergraduate, it's usually 15 to 18 credits, depending on the class. And again, Catherine, if I say anything that you want to add on to or that I say wrong, feel free to correct.
No, I think that's right. It's also, knowing yourself
Hmm.
in terms of if someone is working and taking classes, online classes. Online classes take longer than face-to-face classes. That's what folks tell me. I can certainly say that that's the case from the teacher's perspective as well. So thinking about you or your students' time management will really help with that.
Yep. Is tutoring with cast available on the weekend or only weekdays? Let
Oh,
me double check that.
that's a good question.
Hmm. I think your student needs to book an appointment. And the availability, okay, it says Monday through Fridays, 8:30 to 4:30 is their general office hours. If your student needs an appointment over the weekend, I'm sure maybe they could accommodate you if you reach out to them through email or if there is a student tutor who is available on weekends. But that may be something that I need to confirm. So I will write down your name and get back to you. Okay. And I'll also try and include that in the webinar recap if I can get that answer before it's posted. Any advice for a student if they do find that they've fallen behind?
Okay, I would first of all try to assess, just take a quick inventory of what the student has fallen behind on, and then approach professors and see what can you make up, what can the student make up, what should they make up, and approach them and say that you want to be able to get back on track and how best would they advise you. When a student comes to me with this, I may tell them that they should actually do the assignments in a different order, not go one, two, three, four. Maybe they're not sequential, and it'd be better if they did a later assignment so they'd actually be with us in the class. And maybe there's an assignment that I will say, actually, don't spend so much time doing the smaller assignments that aren't worth very many points, but instead, why don't you work on this project that's worth 20% of your grade rather than trying to do two assignments that are worth maybe 2% total of your grade. So I would work with your professor or work with the professor on that and get some guidance, and approach it that way. Like, I would like some guidance. Can you help me figure out how I can get on track? And then working with a tutor at CAST or a consultant at the Writing Center, the Center for Writing Excellence, no, yeah, Center for Writing Excellence, um, can also be helpful. But I would not make assumptions that all assignments can be made up or should be made up. So getting the professor's advice first is very helpful.
Thank you. Are the study areas, are there study areas that are open 24 hours? Common spaces are, I know some buildings might lock after a certain time of the day, but generally our student center is open. I know if your student is in a resident hall, there are study rooms on each floor as well. I think most of them. So there's always a place that your student can go to get some personal um, space to study. For a commuter student that doesn't have enough time to get back home between an in-person class on campus and an online class, where do you recommend they set themselves up in campus to join their online class? This
I
might
think you
depend on
mentioned
your
it before.
student.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
library is a great place, right? You mentioned booking
hmm
rooms at the library.
Booking a room, they can do that any time of the day, any day of the week, as long as there's one available. There's also rooms in the business building as well that they can book. So if there's not one available there, they can go to the business building. And again, your student may feel more comfortable in one space because they're in that side of that location on campus more. Just let them know that they can explore and try something out and something different every day until they find the place that they like best. Is there any policy on visiting dorms? For example, can opposite gender come in? For how long are there visit? Is there a visitor's log? So yes, students can have guests in their dorm rooms. If the person already lives in that building, um, there is no one monitoring the halls to say, oh, you can't have that person in your room for that long if they live in the same resident hall. Um, if a person is signing in a non-Montclair student or a commuter student, it is usually, I think, 2 days that they are allowed in the dorm room. And you might have to check them in every time that they like come in and out. So on the housing website, there are specific policies about guests. I would encourage your student to look at that policy before inviting guests, um, and talk to their roommate about the expectations of having guests if they do have a roommate. Um, and about the opposite gender also being in there. There are accommodations for if you want to live with um, a student that is of another gender than you. So you would fill out a consent form and so on. So it is allowed, but generally, the general rule of thumb is same gender live in one dorm. Do students using CAS tend to have a dedicated tutor, or is it a different tutor for each session? There is a different tutor for each course. Generally, it's a student who has taken that course and has excelled in that course. There's also general tutors, so etc. More information. Let me see.
I think
I
if you
also have
made an
a
appointment with the you could probably make an appointment with the same tutor. If it was really subject specific, that tutor might not be able to help. But for that general tutoring, especially if you set up the appointment like at the same time every week, you
mhm.
most likely would be able to get the same person.
Yeah, so there's different types. So there's course specific tutoring, so they match a tutor to a specific class. There's foundational subject tutoring, which you can select a tutor in a content area who may have taken the class but has knowledge surrounding that content. And then there's supplement instruction, which is just a walk-in, and that would be based on availability. The same way that you registered for this webinar, I do have a webinar coming up in September all about tutoring and how your student can get access to tutoring. So more information to come on that. What are the best resources on campus for students with ADHD or other neurodivergence or learning needs? The DRC would be the best way to go, even to just talk to. They have an actual office that you can walk into. They have a contact. Here, let me share it on the screen right now. So your student can talk to them about their needs and what type of support can be provided for them. So here's their contact information here. If you want to take a quick picture or a screenshot, write it down, your student can go there. And Catherine, if you know any more about what's offered in the classroom and want to speak of.
Normally, we tell folks to talk to the Disability Resource Center, um, because even in the case where a student is not getting official accommodations, they usually can connect the student with resources that would be helpful. Um, and that really right now is our main resource.
Mhm. Just scrolling through to see what type of information they generally have on their page. Yeah, they're a great team. They just want to help students. They do
Yeah.
things as far as helping you get um, test extensions or accommodations to helping students get an emotional support animal on campus. So there's a variety of support that they can give. So our best recommendation would just to have your student walk in, call, or email them to figure out what support is best for them. What advice for an incoming junior that is having second thoughts about his major? This is not uncommon. The reassure that this is not uncommon. It is a normal feeling to have. There's plenty of people to talk to, their professors, their academic advisors. If they're working on campus or have any clubs or orgs, talking to their advisors, anyone that he can to, um, or they can to seek out advice or a path that may be similar to his. Um, what do you think, Catherine?
I think that makes sense. Yeah, getting advice, talking through the issue with other folks who might be able to recommend um, a path that feels more comfortable to the person who has some doubts, or maybe it's just being reaffirmed that the major is the right one through
Mhm.
talking to folks. But yeah, I think not trying to struggle through that on their own, but the advisor, professors in that field, professors in a field that might feel more tempting, would be very helpful.
And if they do have a major that they're leaning towards changing to, talking to their academic advisor to see how much longer their time at Montclair will be if they change, what courses overlap, and so forth. So maybe the decision isn't as drastic. Maybe it's an easy switch, or maybe it is, and seeing what they can do to not spend more money or spend more time more than they have to. So definitely talking to their advisor earlier than later if they are considering changing their major. Do you recommend purchasing books online or is it the bookstore a better choice? Waiting for the first day of classes, definitely, so that, or reading the syllabus so you know what materials your student needs. So there's some required materials, there's some recommended materials. Um, so starting there, and then I would look at all of your options. Look at buying, looking at purchasing on Amazon. I know Amazon also does resell, so you might get a book used for a lesser price. There are signs in our bookstore right now saying save up to 80% off if you rent through our bookstore. Um, so there are plenty of options, and I would just consider all of them if that's a if I can give that answer. It's not really an answer, but to search through your options there. You might find different prices. Every book is different, every course is different.
That's a good
I
answer.
know, yeah. Do you book rooms at the library through Nest? No. Let's see. I am still sharing my screen. So, inside Montclair, again, inside is the site for current students and families. There's also another site that just has the Montclair logo. That's you'll find the same information, but it's more so for the prospective families. I mean, students and families. So, you want to be on the inside site, and you're going to look up the library. University libraries is where you want to be. And then let's see, study spaces is probably where we want to go. And then it's reserve a study space. So it's through the inside Montclair site. If you go to the regular Montclair site, you can probably find this page as well. I'm just not sure how to get to it right now, but this is the best way that you can possibly go. And I'll make sure to include this link in the recap as well for you. So it's through the library website. Okay. Uh, how, uh, how to go about getting financial aid and will they help paying for books? Hmm, I'm not sure. I don't know any information about financial aid providing like a voucher or um, like discounts through books, um, just because it's not officially through Montclair. If your financial aid goes, if you're provided more financial aid than your tuition is, you will get a refund and you can possibly use that. But there's, from my knowledge, there's no known way that your financial aid can pay for your books. That might be a very specific question you might want to call or contact Red Hawk Central for. They can look at your account, see what loans or accommodations your student has. They might be able to give you a more specific answer to your student's account. Do you know anything about this, Catherine?
There used to be a fund through the Dean of Students for folks who had financial aid. And I think there was There was a question that students who had financial aid needed to buy their textbooks through the bookstore. But the rules keep changing, so I wouldn't want to be quoted on that. But there might be something that we could research and have you share.
Yes. Um, I'll write down your name as well, and if I get in for any information, I can email you back. Is there a direct number to the financial off aid office other than Red Hawk Central? Um, Red Hawk Central is definitely the place to call. We do have a financial aid office, but I know that let me see if they have an actual number. I don't think they do. Yep, it's Red Hawk Central. So Red Hawk Central is your place to go for all things financial aid. And I did find a link for the textbook scholarships.
Oh,
It
good.
is on the Dean of Students webpage. Let me drop this link in the chat.
I'm glad I wasn't misremembering or it was something that had been canceled or something.
Okay, so in the chat, I just dropped a link on that page under academic administrative support. You'll see textbook scholarships where your student must be signed in to engage to access the application. Um, but you can contact Red Hawk Central again. And a financial aid office, call Red Hawk Central for any help and assistance on that end. Okay, so we answered about 40 questions. We'll give you guys another minute to type any questions you have in the chat before we log off and end tonight's webinar. And just for the good of the order, one more time, this webinar is being recorded. Will be shared to your inbox later this week or early next week, as soon as I can get the content together and all packaged. All right. Thank you, Catherine, for being here, and thank you for your tips and your campaign. One last question. How do you reserve a study room in the business building? Ooh, I think when you go into the business building, um, there are little tablets next to the rooms. It's like they they just like sign in into the tablet. They're usually empty unless of course, they're reserved. But it's usually you can just like walk up to the room, and if it's available, you sign in through the tablet of sorts. If I can find an exact link, I will share it in the recap. Alrighty. If you have any more questions, you can reply to the webinar email that you got today. I'm on the other end, happy to find a link, connect you with other campus partners, or answer if I do know the question, or answer if I do know the answer. So thank you guys so much. Enjoy your night, and thank you, Catherine.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for your attention and good luck to your students.
Yes, good luck.